from your experience, you're a decorated police officer. From you can tell the rest of us as the population that when you're out on that job, you're not looking at race. You're more looking at abnormalities and things like that. Before we go on into further, when you were a patrol officer, um, how often, maybe you done this yourself, maybe you've seen this done, how often are police officers fishing, uh, for a lack of a better term, fishing to get that stop or to get that ticket or to.
Yeah, that goes back to the cop who's out there trying to be a cop versus the cop who's just there for a paycheck. I've worked with both of them, and back in those early years when I'm working with partners, some of these senior guys would park literally in a park for their entire shift, and the only time they moved was to respond to a 911 call. Other cops didn't stop moving the whole time because they were looking for criminal activity. You have both in the department, and it just goes back to that human nature of, are you there to stop crime, or are you there to collect a paycheck?
I want to get another myth out of the way. That end of the month myth, is it true, like that you're supposed to get as many tickets as possible for the end of the month because you get a bonus, or like is that something, is that true, or is that a myth, man?
Absolute lie. Not only do you not get bonuses for tickets or arrests, quotas are illegal in the state of New Jersey. So the department can't even tell an officer, we expect 10 tickets a month from you. That is flat out illegal. You're not allowed to do it.
So this whole thing that a cop at the end of the month is going to stop you more often and he's looking for more tickets, this is just a myth, man.
In New Jersey, it's a lie.
BS.
Yeah, can't speak for states, but in New Jersey, it's not true.
I'm really glad. I'm really so glad that you said this, man.
And you know what? Let me just talk about a car stop just for a quick second here.
Please.
People always ask me, like, oh, will a PBA card do anything for me? Will what story will get me out of speeding? Man, let me tell you, honesty. Just, officer, you got me. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I have a license, registration.
Yes.
It's all good, and I apologize for doing what I did. Goes so much.
Listen. I'm so glad you said this. This is exactly how I always approached being stopped, man. The first time I was pulled over, I was 15, driving illegally, man.
Mm-hmm.
And this is exactly what I did. As soon as the officer approached, I said, look, I have no license. I'm being a dumbass. I'm driving. I'm sorry, man, And the cop just respected that so much. He's like,
you gotta think about it, man. Everybody lies. Like the suburban housewife who's doing 60 in a 40 is going to say, I don't think I was going that fast, officer, right? Like everybody lies. So honesty goes so far with cops. It goes so far. Now, I'm saying not that honesty is going to get you out of every ticket, but it's so much more important than I know your mayor, or I know your chief, or, do you know my cousin who works in the next town over? It's so much more important.
Listen, I've gotten so much respect from police officers just by doing that, man. And I'm glad that you said this. Another thing that people asked me to ask you is, maybe you heard of this, maybe you done this, I don't know. When, let's say you're a traffic cop, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're patrolling and everything like that, you're seeing traffic go by. Do you look at the condition of someone's motor vehicle and do you think to yourself, well, I can try pulling this person over because they might be under, like, they might be uneducated with the law and things like that. And a more expensive car is, well, maybe they have better lawyers, maybe, like, I'm not going to try that one. Did you ever encounter this? So maybe you heard of this?
No, it's not so much who's driving that car, right? It's more about, let's say you see, right, an RV that's barely able to even drive, or you see a pickup truck that's so loaded the back of it is hanging down, right? You're thinking, man, that thing is unsafe for the road, right? There are That's going to crash into somebody else because the brakes are going to stop working, or that's going to, all that stuff is going to fall out on the car behind them. So you're thinking more about, like, that vehicle should not be on the road right now, not, oh, I
Safety.
give this guy a ticket because I know he's not going to have a lawyer.
Okay. Yeah. So you're more thinking of safety. You're not, but again, this is you personally. But do you think there are officers that think that way?
Probably, again, human nature. Some of them probably do. Did I encounter them? No. Particularly, like traffic cops are a rare breed, right? They have a lot of specialized training. So they're more into, like, diagramming crash scenes and stopping people for doing, 50 miles over the limit. And they're not looking for, I'm going to give this guy one ticket for a broken tail light or something.
How much over a speed limit can someone go until you get noticed, man? Like,
I mean, hey, look, technically by the letter of the law, you go 1 mile an hour over the speed limit and it's a violation, right? I find that I could do 80 on the highways in New Jersey and not a cop, blinks at me. That's just personal experience. So,
but what would you notice? Let's say you were the you. I mean, let's say you were the traffic, like, police officer. What would you pay attention to? 10 miles over 20, like,
so it depends what area you're talking about too, right? If I'm in a school zone and kids are getting out and they're doing 10 miles over the limit, I'm probably going to stop them. But if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and they're doing 10 miles over the limit, and there's nobody around, then maybe I don't care. So it's kind of circumstance dependent also.
you're a patrol officer during the late 90s, in particular in New Jersey. How are the races divided? Is it a big division?
Uh, in the police department, you mean?
Yes. Well, I'm talking as far as the police officer and the population. Like, uh, I'm trying to formulate what I'm trying to say, because I know that in the late 90s, you know, racism and race profiling, it was more prevalent maybe than it is now because of body cams and things like that. So how do you go about that as a police officer? Because let's say you're a white guy from the suburbs, you're working, not such a nice neighborhood in the inner city. There aren't as many white people, again, maybe there's none. Like, how was that during the late 90s?
So I think what you're trying to boil this down to is racial profiling,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I gotta say, I never was taught racial profiling, whether it was in the police academy or on the street, right? I'm taught to look for things that look out of place, right? Now, if that is a white guy in a nice car in a neighborhood where you don't normally see white guys in nice cars, maybe he's down there to buy drugs. Maybe not, but it's out of place, right? It looks a little different. Similarly, if you see a black guy in a predominantly white neighborhood riding a bike with a backpack in the middle of the night, looks a little out of place. You don't normally see that. So maybe he's there doing a burglary. Maybe not. But it's not particularly based on the race so much as something looks out of place here.
Hmm.
Right now, were other departments teaching racial profiling? There's a black guy driving fast, so he's probably a drug dealer. Maybe. I don't know the answer to that. But I know that I wasn't taught look for X race to be doing this thing. I was taught look for things that look out of place.
Okay. But again, you're a police officer. You're still a human being. And let's say throughout your 5 years of being a patrol officer, you're in a crime-ridden neighborhood where most of these crimes are committed by black people. How do you separate this? Don't you sort of have this impression that he's a black guy? He's like I'm scared he might have a gun or like you understand what I'm saying? I'm trying to really understand like is it it's because I'm really trying to say that maybe it's not so much as of a racism thing as a more of a like an experience thing. Do you understand?
I think I get what you're
And
you're
I'm not trying to justify anyone. I'm not trying to justify anyone being, racially profiled or anything like that. I'm just trying to understand from a perspective of a police officer of maybe why we see such things.
yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to look at a black guy and think he's got a gun because he's black, right? I'm going to look at the whole situation. Um, I'm not going to look at a white guy and say he probably didn't commit a crime because he's white, right? I'm going to look at the whole situation. So I think I understand your question. Race plays a part in what you're looking at, but it's not he's black so he's this, he's white so he's that. It plays a part in the overall circumstance.
So I just want to get this out of the way and I want to make this clear. From your experience, you're a decorated police officer. From you can tell the rest of us as the population that when you're out on that job, you're not looking at race. You're more looking at abnormalities and things like that.
The vast majority of police officers, that's true. I can't speak for all of them, right? Obviously. And I'm sure there are some racist cops in every race, right? Not just white cops who are racist against everyone else, right? Like there are black cops who are racist, there are Spanish cops who are racist. Um, the vast majority, though, are looking for abnormalities, looking for things that are out of place, not looking at somebody's race and then trying to determine what they did wrong because of their race.
Okay, that black guy in the suburbs in a nice neighborhood in the middle of the night with a book bag, he looks suspicious, but suspicion is not a crime.
Right, but you only need reasonable suspicion to stop somebody, to talk to them, to further the investigation, right? So I don't need probable cause to stop somebody to talk to them. I need probable cause to arrest them, right? And probable cause is like a level that's up to here. I need reasonable suspicion to stop them and see what's going on. That's down here, right? So for a car stop, for a pedestrian stop, I need to reasonably believe that the person I'm stopping committed some crime or offense or is going to commit some crime or offense, right?
Okay, but I'm sorry for interrupting. Isn't it reasonable, articulable suspicion of a crime committed, being committed, or about to be committed?
Right, to stop somebody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So, but
So
again,
suspicion is very low. On
okay,
the level of suspicion, reasonable suspicion is very low.
okay, but again, the black guy
Wait,
with
wait, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's the reasonableness is based on an officer in that situation with similar training and experience, right? So it's not based on the mom who's never stopped somebody before in the middle of the night. It's based on the cop who who's also arrested burglary suspects in that neighborhood in similar situations.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So the level of suspicion to stop somebody is very low.
Okay. So that black guy in a neighborhood with that book bag, no one called on him yet. Like no one, we're just talking semantics, right? Like no one made a call. He's just there. You spot him.
Yep.
You're you're now acting out of suspicion. You approach him, but legally that citizen has a right not to answer you, right? Or now, or like, how does that legally work? Or are you under an investigation now, like, and he has to answer you?
So if I have nothing else, I'm just like, hey man, you don't really look like you fit in this neighborhood. Yeah, they don't have any duty to or any legal reason to talk to me, to give me any ID. I can ask for ID. They don't have to give it to me.
They could plead the fifth. So,
Yeah, I mean, for lack of a better word, yeah.
so how would you further investigate this? Person doesn't want to, um, this person doesn't want to answer you. They're staying quiet. You think they're suspicious. How would you go about this?
I mean that's so you're getting into like a very
Yeah.
minute detail, and like every situation is just so different. I can't say I would do X, Y, and Z with this particular person. It just is dependent on
I
the
got you on the
when
situation.
yeah when
So let's say someone called on that black guy.
yep
Mhm.
that raises the level even more, right? It gives me a little bit more of the suspicion that I need for the stop.
So do you go to the person that made the phone call and find out why they made the phone call, or do you go to the suspect right away?
Again, it's dependent on the situation. If I'm driving down the street and I see the person that I think they're talking about, well, I'm going to stop that person rather than letting them get away. But if I drive the area, I don't see anybody, and the caller's house is right near me, well, yeah, I'm going to go talk to the caller.
Okay, back to the whole race thing and you being a patrol officer. So can you clear the air for all of us right now from your, again, from your personal experience, from, again, you're a decorated officer. Most of the time, in your experience and in your department, officers are not looking at race. They're looking at their past experience.
Correct. They're looking at something that's unusual or out of place.